Ar šo mums ir šobrīd noslēgusies konferences prezentācija daļa, un šobrīd sāksies konferences diskusija, un es laipni aicināšu uz skatuves savus mīļos kolēģus Sascha Ferz no Austrijas, Ingu un Agni no Lietuvas. Starp citu, Lietuvā šodien ir neatkarības diena. Agne, is it true that it is Independence on National Day in Lithuania?
Yes.
Congratulations. It's a special honor to then host the Lithuanian colleagues. Un tie no jums, kas vai nu dosies ātrāk projām no konferences, vai kuriem nav laika palikt līdz galam, tie, kas ir klātienē, lūdzam aizpildīt konferences novērtējumu lapas, tās jūs atradīsiet savās mapītēs. Un tie no jums, kas ir attālināti, jūs saņemsiet saiti uz konferences novērtējumu un arī laipni lūdzam aizpildīt. So we start a discussion part, and we have received some questions, and we have some topics which we would probably like to discuss into each other. And probably the most topical question is what impact on mediation left the COVID-19 pandemic and introduced restrictions? Do you, as practicing lawyers, as practicing mediators, saw how COVID changed this cooperation between lawyers and mediators? Does it left any impact at all, or how it was? Who would like to start?
Maybe I would like to start actually just all these changes happen really quickly and everybody has to adapt, yes? And mediators, I suppose, were really quick in doing it because it was easier for them just to manage those online processes, introduce these online processes for the participants. And I suppose everything went good. And to say frankly, mediators were quicker than courts. So maybe we even got some advantages in this situation. And in Lithuania, we had a lot of distance mediations, like online mediations, but still there were some people who were willing to wait till the pandemic ends and have the process on site. But it took quite long, so somehow they also adapt.
Thank you. And how about Austria? Sascha, you mentioned in your presentation the aspect of confidentiality as well. Is this online mediation always confidential? How Austria sees that?
If it is always confidential, it depends how the mediator can handle the system and what kind of contract you have at the beginning of the mediation. But I want to answer the question before, if the COVID situation changed the cooperation between lawyers and mediators. I thought I understood it like this. COVID was disturbing this growing cooperation. It was difficult for them to come together with the problem on platforms, conferencing platforms, no personal networking anymore, and so on. So it wasn't a good time for mediation and cooperation to the lawyers. So everyone of the mediation community in Austria is waiting for coming back to normal life and start the cooperation again. Also, not only to the advocates when we talk about lawyers, but also to the judges. The way of communication we heard before was interrupted. It was quite difficult and not a good time for mediation. And I don't mean that it's now maybe with getting used of this kind of conferencing tools that it is not worth to think about and to use this kind of technical support, but for the cooperation and for the local growing of the local community, it wasn't good.
I can share what you say with experience in Latvia. When the court hearings was in presence, in the courtrooms, it was easier to start talking to opposing parties. And now we're having the court sessions online, it is possible, but still not encouraging. So the mediations are ongoing in the online environment and working fine, but still this first step is a little bit like more difficult. Yeah. So the presence still matters. Probably we are the people meant to live in the real life, not in online version.
Fully agree. Yeah.
Another question received from the audience is how you motivate your clients to go for mediation. When you work as a lawyer, as a legal assistant to the client, do you have any special tips or suggestions how you say the clients try mediation?
Actually, frankly speaking, I can't exclude some very typical things. How? Because it depends. Depends what case you have. What is the intention of the client, and what personality he or she is. So every time you try to find your individual way how to explain why it is necessary or why you should use as for your first step and what can be the result, yeah, what are advantages for that. But anyway, you should do how to say, not to push him, the client, and try to clarify what are positive things from the mediation. And what else I usually do, because I think that I should, it is my, how to say, obligation. I also try to explain that it can be everything okay after mediation. It means that the mediation will be resultative in any way. So it means that I also introduce that it depends on mediator's qualification, because you never know what is the mediator strategy will be, yeah, how it works. It again, what the person of mediator will be, and in your case. So also explain that this collaboration and cooperation, that my client is not just left will be alone. It means that anytime he has possibility to answer if something some question arise, yeah. If there are some, try to avoid misunderstanding. So I think this is the main thing. And also there are such situations that I heard from the speakers, yeah, that mediator said, don't be afraid, or maybe Anna, you said, don't be afraid, yeah, just work with us, mediator said. But also the same from the point of lawyers, attorney. Also, we can see the same way. Don't be afraid. Don't look that we just try to, how to say, to break everything. So we are your friend. So also we try to do this. But it depends on, as I mentioned, on the case. For example, the client can have interest to have a long process as much he can. For example, if the mother preferred to change the location of the children living place, yeah, in other country, so the client, the father just think, okay, so this is my intention that I would like to have the children as long as possible here, and the result is not the on the first step. It means that he prefer to have long process in order to communicate all this time with the children, maybe to have an idea that children change opinion, even if they maybe grow a bit. So it means that mediation as process, as usually said, in shorter time to solve the issue, it's not a priority for the client in this case. So, of course, you can explain that you can agree on better conditions, yeah, and the money question, yeah, and so on. But he said, I need more time anyway. I prefer to have long process because I'd like to be with the children. So sometimes you can do not to pay attention to the client interest. So in this case, of course, you can explain what are the legal regulations, what maybe can be some decisions, yeah, some case law and so on. But anyway, if we are attorney, yeah, our role is to protect and to respect the client's will, opinion, but not to do only just one way and to push him and something else. So
that is right. Yeah, that's right. Agne, please.
If I may, just to be on the same page, in Lithuania, because together with Inga we're talking, of course, from our side, yes, from Lithuanian side. In Lithuania we have mandatory mediation in family disputes. And mostly when we talk about mediation in Lithuania now, today we're talking about these mandatory mediations. So it's a bit different. For example, we're mostly, in most cases, people not choosing mediator. Mm-hmm. He's appointed. So that's a lot of clarity for Inga, saying that sometimes you do not trust mediator, you do not rely on him, and so on. So for the mediators, it's even more difficult to cooperate with lawyers because they are not those who, for example, lawyers would prefer to have as a mediator. So that's also some kind of new conflict might arise between these professionals. But still, we're trying to cope with it somehow.
Very interesting. So that means that there's no choice of the mediator, it is appointed, right?
It is possible to choose, but you know, when people are in conflict, state requires them both to agree on the candidacy of mediator. So when people are in conflict, it's difficult to agree even on such small thing as a mediator. So normally they're getting appointments from the state authorities.
Very interesting. So close the countries, but still the differences. There is another question from the audience. So the question is, sometimes lawyers ask to take part in family mediation instead of parties. What do you think about that? So not the clients are going to mediation, but the lawyers themselves. Any opinion about that?
Strictly only parties should participate. First of all, I think that mediation process is for parties, first of all, and the lawyers is just as additional component, yeah, we can say. It means that some kind of representations that usually maybe client prefer. For example, I don't want to sit near my spouse, for example, or cohabitor, yeah, and I have no contact. And maybe you can't represent even in mediation process, yeah? So it's not allowed in Lithuania. It's just strictly written in the law. And I think it should be this way because anyway, we look not to the court process. We look at what happens before the court. So it means that people sometimes they are confused and emotionally feel very, how to say, with different ideas, with different misunderstanding and so on. So first of all, they prefer to have session with the as arbiter with the impartial person, and I think that should be without lawyers, and of course not instead of lawyers. As Bulgarian perhaps mentioned, that information session that we have in Bulgaria, it is without lawyers and it is compulsory. So I think that it's a good idea, and I think that lawyer just as assistant, as helper, and he can be involved a bit later, I think.
Right.
It's my opinion.
Okay, so to me, I have, that was not a mediation process, those were negotiations in the court hall between the lawyers when clients were sitting in the courtroom, but the lawyers had a discussion outside, and that had a positive result. When the lawyers rationally agreed on possible solution offered to the clients, then settlement agreement was concluded. But that was not a real mediation, that is negotiations, which is something else.
Yeah, and it was in court.
Yeah, that was
already,
in court
yeah.
with a different pressure.
But that's the main topic. You have to decide, do you want to mediate or do you want to negotiate? Do you want to mix methods? Then it can be a wonderful ADR method, but it's something different. So that's also the same with the conciliation hearing. That's something different. Can help, but it's something different. And the question before I wanted to answer from my own, in the sense of can lawyers or can you exclude the parties and only negotiate with the lawyers? It depends when. I fully agree when you say, okay, we want to work out the interests of the parties, then I will work with the parties. But if I want to check out if there is the scope a little bit broader than it looks like, then I can also work with the lawyers, only with the lawyers, and then merge this process. This would be also a kind of mediation. So it's not a problem. It depends. So you have to be. I think all mediators should be more self-confident to try something and to cooperate with the lawyers or in the sense of advocates and also with the judges. They can do a lot of good things for their parties.
I suppose that there can be different models, yes, and that's okay. I really agree with Sascha. But just from that perspective, in Lithuania, we have that perspective that according to our civil code, marriage is contract which need personal participation. So we have like the same analogy saying that it should be really the best option than people participating in mediation as well personally, because today we heard a lot that mediation is about emotions, about interest, yes, not about legal aspects only. So that's also, I suppose, that clients should be in the room, but of course they can be with lawyers and we can choose various models and be flexible here.
Yeah, there are different techniques to use. The time is flying so fast, so we are slowly coming to the end of the conference. I would like to ask one more question. What's your experience about mediation with the help of interpreter? Have you had mediation processes where the interpreter is present, and how the interpretation left an impact to the process? Or if not, then another question is how you feel when you have mediation process not in your national language but in a foreign language. What impact it leaves?
So actually, I did not have such experience that the interpreter would be in the same room, but my colleagues has, and actually we were like discussing about it. So definitely, it's very difficult, because when we are talking, it's not only the verbal communication. Of course, it is our tone, our like various like different ways to say the same thing, and so on. So that's crucially important for the mediators, but as well. When I as a mediator am providing these services in foreign language, so that's also, it's quite challenging. So definitely the mediator should be ready to mediate, for example, in one or other language, and it is also one of the criteria when people choose mediator.
Yeah, to be capable to communicate, yes.
And actually, it is one of the main problems to find the mediator who had these skills, and knowledges of different language, and actually it depends. Of course, as we usually think that English, it's usually English, but no, there are some other languages that even for example, French, yeah. So it means first of all, you should find the mediator who speaks in this language. So this is the problem, yeah. And even when we try as lawyers, try to negotiate, yeah, before, for example, mediation process, it's also a challenge because this it's more difficult. No doubt, and it's more time you should prepare for it, and also you pay attention. It can be Muslim man who lives in UK, but he speaks French, and it is sometimes you have how to say mixed person in one, as you can say, yeah. So his views, his culture, his some kind of traditions and so on. It also these facts you should pay attention to this. And sometimes it's not enough that mediator speaks excellent, fluently French, yeah, for example, but he has no idea of concrete culture and so on. So it means that these things also is additional. So this more complicated process, and you should spend more time for preparation, and even when you spend this time in mediation.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, so.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, the clock is dictating the rules, so we have to come to the final words for the conference. Many thanks to you for participating in the conference and in the discussion panel. It is 3 o'clock already, so I will say the final words to our estimated audience. Godātie konferences dalībnieki, paldies, ka jūs varējāt tik rūpīgi klausīties mūs, varējāt uzdot jautājumus. Ziniet, ja jūs dodat vārdu juristiem un mediatoriem, mēs ilgi varam runāt, un droši vien mēs arī turpināsim diskusiju vēl pēc tam, kad noslēgsies oficiālā konferences daļa. Bet pulkstens ir 3, tāpēc teikšu dažus noslēguma vārdus. Un šodien mēs noklausījāmies vairāku valstu pārstāvju prezentācijas par juristu darbu, par mediātoru darbu un par savstarpēju sadarbību. Ļoti interesanti, ka runājot par jurista darbu mediācijā, mēs pieskārāmies arī tiesneša darbam un tiesneša lomai mediācijas procesā. Un kas ir tas, ko tiesnesis var darīt, kā var rekomendēt, nevis biedēt tiesvedības dalībnieks ar mediāciju, bet aicināt runāt. Un arī Latvijā mums ir jau ļoti daudz labu piemēru, kur tiesneši ne tikai mudina doties uz mediāciju, bet arī paši mediē tiesas procesa laikā, paši runā ar dalībniekiem, paši mudina viņus uz kādu kopīgu risinājumu, rāda viņu intereses, rāda viņu vajadzības, kas nozīmē lielu progresu arī tiesnešu izpratnē par to, kā mediācija darbojas. Paskatījāmies arī šodien, kāda tad ir saikne starp komunikāciju un konfliktu. Ja, arī diezgan pat līdzīgi šie vārdi, kā tad konflikts prasās pēc komunikācijas un kā komunikācijas laikā mēs varam palīdzēt atrisināt konfliktu. Un šeit nav runa par ģimenes strīdiem, šeit ir runa par jebkuriem konfliktiem, kādi notiek. Vai tie ir tiesvedības procesā, vai tie darba strīdi, vai tie ir kaimiņu strīdi, pilnīgi jebkuri. Lieliski šodien atzīmēja runātāja Eugenija Favreto no Dženovas universitātes, ka vārdi var būt logi un vārdi var būt sienas. Tāpēc arī domāsim, kā mēs paši veicinām strīdu risināšanu saviem klientiem, saviem kolēģiem, un vai mēs ar vārdiem atveram logu uz risinājumu, vai mēs ar vārdiem liekam šķēršļus un radām jaunas sienas. Tā kā mans aicinājums jums ir arī palīdzēt cilvēkiem, lai viņu strīdi tiktu atrisināti un lai viņi ieraudzītu perspektīvu, ka ir dzīve arī pēc strīda. Ļoti iedvesmojoši bija klausīties šos runātājus no dažādām valstīm, ka ik viens, tas nav tikai Latvijā, tas nav tikai šeit mums tuvā lokalizācijā, vairākās pasaules valstīs mediācija izmanto, viņi ir efektīva un juristi māk sadarboties ar mediatoriem, lai palīdzētu klientiem šajos procesos. Un arī redzējām arī Vācijas un Austrijas piemēru, ka pirms tiesas sēdēm tiek rīkotas arī šīs tā kā samierināšanas sēdes, kur speciāli nozīmēts tiesnesis, un tad veic šīs samierināšanas darbības un skatās, kā pusēm veicināt viņu strīdu risināšanu. Pārunājām arī šodien dažādas mediācijas tehnikas, tā skaitā, ka varam izmantot arī coachinga prasmes mediācijā, un ka tās nav atsevišķas jomas, atsevišķas planētas, bet ka mēs varam integrēt šīs metodas, un ja tas palīdz cilvēkiem atrisināt viņu domstarpības, kāpēc nē, mēs varam to darīt. Lieliski uzklausījām arī šodien Latvijas Republikas Tieslietu ministrijas redzējumu par to, kā mediācija var tikt izmantot un par to, ka mums vajadzētu atcerēties, kas tad ir pārobežu ģimenes lietās vissvarīgākais, un tas ir bērns. Ja? Tāpēc aicinu arī paskatīties uz strīdiem ar bērnu acīm, cik viņam ir svarīgi turpināt uzturēt kontaktu ar vienu ar otru vecāku un kā to darīt viscilvēcīgākajā veidā. Un arī pārunājām arī šodien par to, ka dažkārt arī pat tiesneši var atņemt darbu mediatoriem, ja tiesneši prasmīgi māk šos strīdus atrisināt. Un dzirdējām arī jaunus jēdzienus, piemēram, terapeitiskā jurisprudence, ir vērts aizdomāties. Ja? Tad jūs kā tieslietu jomas darbinieki, jūs arī varat veikt tātad terapeitisku jurisprudenci, palīdzēt strīdus risināt tā, ka cilvēkam arī tiek, piemēram, sadziedēta dvēsele un viņš var skatīties tālāk dzīvē uz priekšu. Paldies jums par dalību šajā konferencē. Mēs tiekamies atkal nākamajos pasākumos. Liels paldies arī mūsu mīļajiem tulkiem, kas tulkoja, nodrošināja lielisku sapratni savstarpēji. Paldies arī konferences tehniskajai grupai, ka mēs bijām redzami, dzirdami un apgaismoti. Un paldies manām mīļajām Turības kolēģēm, Kristīnai Tihanovai, Ivitai Kīsnicai par milzīgu komandas darbu, lai šī konference varētu tapt. Paldies un lielisku jums dienu!